Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair, who's sitting in. It's good to see you both again, and I do want to thank you for your regular engagement with us even before I was on this committee, and look forward to working with you more closely now that I'm an appropriator. And I think you both know this because I've brought it to your attention, and Mr. Secretary, you understand that the Rock Island Arsenal is in the congressional district that I serve. And for my colleagues here in this room that have not had the pleasure of visiting what I think is a pretty awesome place, in addition to Fort Hood. But I'd love for folks to visit our installation, but it is literally on an island in the middle of the Mississippi River. So it's pretty awesome environment. But when our brave men and women put on the uniform and put their lives on the line, the men and women who serve and work at the Arsenal are proud to help provide the best equipment to help get the job done. And the hardworking men and women of the Rock Island Arsenal are leading the way in developing 21st century manufacturing techniques that make our Army the strongest in the world, and we're certainly proud of that. I am pleased to see the Advanced Manufacturing Center of Excellence nearing its initial operating capability at the Rock Island Arsenal, and given the history and current efforts that the Arsenal provides the Army, this is the right location for this endeavor, in our opinion. To that extent, how do you envision additive and advanced manufacturing techniques helping to support the fielding of the Army's modernization effort? And second part of that, particularly as we look to the efforts like the Next Generation Combat Vehicle.
So thank you, ma'am, for that opening. As we discussed, I had the chance to go up there and visit Rock Island last year. It is a neat place to visit and walk through the site of what would be our 3D Manufacturing Center of Excellence. I think in many ways it can be a game changer for Army sustainability, both at the strategic level and in terms of its ability to allow us to inexpensively and quickly print parts, if you will, particularly for low-density items. And if you can think about that, once we master that technology to put it on the battlefield, behind the forward line of troops, so that you don't have to carry around warehouses of supplies and equipment, the ability to quickly manufacture key parts, again, could really improve our sustainability, our readiness on the battlefield. So I think it's an exciting venture. I think we need to continue to develop, because I think additive manufacturing was going to have a real big, important part of the future Army.
If we look at future combat operations, it's highly likely that ground forces will be cut off, and they'll be operating in small, isolated organizations. Long logistics convoys may or may not have the survivability and the capability to get through on that type of extraordinarily violent, very intense battlefield. So 3D manufacturing, additive manufacturing, is going to be critical to the survivability of an organization, so they can produce their own spare parts right on site. And that'll play a very critical role in future battle.
Okay, great. If I may ask one more question? All right. So in addition to making some of the best Army equipment, the Arsenal is also home to Army Sustainment Command, as you're aware. It's the logistics arm of the Army Materiel Command that provides our warfighters with everything they need to do their job. America's soldiers need ammunition, equipment, food, uniforms, much more to fight and win on the battlefield or to respond to natural disasters. And the Army Sustainment Command makes sure that they get them. Can you discuss the role of pre-positioning of assets and how that plays into managing the budget, both in support of current operations and future needs?
Well, I'll speak to one part of it. Are you,
Sure.
You may be talking about pre-positioned stocks, for example. We have sets around the world, Korea, Europe, and elsewhere. It obviously allows us to fall in on these pieces of equipment, whether it's fighting vehicles or tanks, much more quickly than if we had to ship them from the United States. And so it's a very important part. I would like to commend Army Materiel Command under General Perner for what they've done to bring that to a much, much higher state of readiness. I had the chance to walk through these pre-positioned stocks warehouses in both Korea and in the Middle East. And I know we're looking at some adjustments based on what the National Defense Strategy tells us to do to make sure that we are in locations that allow us the highest degree of readiness should a conflict happen.
So as Secretary said, the pre-post stocks play a critical role in essentially what I would argue is part of the American way of war, which is for the United States to project power forward, and to do that in a strategic way from continental United States overseas. And we can rapidly deploy ground forces by air or sea and have them fall in on various pre-positioned stocks and then move from the pre-post stock areas into the combat zone. So the pre-post stocks are critical to the broader strategy of the United States and our ability to conduct combat operations overseas.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I yield back the remainder of my time.